On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, we recap what we heard from Brent Venables and OU's players at Big 12 Media Day. We also give you some of our other takeaways from the other Big 12 teams, and we give you our winners and losers of the weekend. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right. Our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Monday, July 17th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack match, roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options in the month of July, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. Now we're recording this late Sunday afternoon. Please leave us a 5-star review and a nice comment. Ted Lehman, how we doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Another really good weekend. Some good sports stuff going on. We got plenty of football stuff to cover, so things are great.
Plenty of football to cover. Spent about 24 hours at Grand Lake over the weekend. Got a little wake surfing in, and this just in. I'm not very good at it. However, I did get up, and I feel like it's one of those things where if I can just go for 2 or 3 days in a row, I know I'm going to have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Once you get it, you got it. Yeah.
But I had about a 10 to 15 minute window, kind of popped up pretty good the first couple times, and then started getting a little tired and starting to get frustrated. And people may not know this. I could have a bit of a hot streak when it comes to competitive situations like that. So, but progress was made. I'm positive outlook on my wake surfing future.
That's good. It's fun, man. It's mellow. There's a bit of a learning curve there, but once you get it, and I'm not saying that I've got it or anything. I've only done it a handful of times, but it's a lot of fun.
I think I'm going to switch my feet. I think I'm going to put my right foot in the front. I was just like a psychopath afterwards. I was just kind of like standing, moving around like this. I was like, which way feels more natural? It was so stupid. But I think I'm going to try right foot in the front. I think that will be better for me, but who knows?
Who knows?
Probably won't try.
I wish I could give
summer.
you some advice, but I do not know.
Yeah. My wife was like, you should probably relax more. I was like, I am relaxed.
Don't I look relaxed? Huh? Can't you tell I'm relaxed? I'm having fun out here.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I am I'm gonna try to get better at that. I just don't know the next time I'm gonna do it. All right, enough of that. OU football time. Brent Venables, Dillon Gabriel, Drake Stoops, Danny Stutsman, and Jonah Laulu were down in Arlington for Big 12 Media Day last week. I was down there covering both days for SiriusXM. Ted, let's just start here. Anything you heard from the OU representatives that really stood out to you? Obviously, Venables had a lot to say, as he always does, and certainly had some comments that caught people's attention. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think that you could definitely tell that he feels better about this football team right now than he did a year ago. Last year probably should have paid a little bit more attention to it, but he was pounding home how inexperienced they were, how few guys that they have out there that have experience, the lack of depth that they've got. Totally different this year, talking about good competitive depth at a bunch of different positions. And I think that tells a pretty big story there. Just whenever you look at both offensively and defensively, just some of the returners they have, they're in a much better spot with, even if you were just to look at the handful of leadership kind of big role guys, they're in a better spot there.
Yeah, that was the thing that kept coming up. And when he sat down with us to do a serious interview, it was one of the first things he brought up, right? And you saw the phrase all day from him, better competitive depth. And I think some people hear that and they're like, okay, what does that exactly mean? Right. And essentially, to me, the most important thing, my takeaway when I hear that is you should have more competition at every position, right? Which should elevate the level of play across the board. And then you should be better late in games because of the depth, because of the competition, and you should be better late in the season. And that means, to me, it also means you should be a healthier football team, right? Because you feel more comfortable playing some more guys in different spots. So, yeah, hearing the phrase better competitive depth, there's a lot that is within that phrase for me, Ted.
Well, yeah, I mean, just look at the quarterback position, with Jackson Arnold doing the things that everyone has said and impressing. And it's not just quarterback, there's several different positions, but when you've got competitive depth, there's a bit of a safeguard from having catastrophic failures whenever you lose a player somewhere. All right. When you've got competitive depth, you've got guys that can step in, fill the role, may not necessarily thrive, but can patch a hole and you can continue on as a football team. When you don't have competitive depth, you lose a tackle or you lose a defensive end or maybe a really important skill position player that you get a lot of production from. You don't have depth, you don't have a way out of that hole. It can be catastrophic for a football team, but whenever you do, I mean, it doesn't mean that there's no fall off from starter to second team guy. It just means that second team guy and third team guy, you still have a chance to win football games whenever you have to fill some spots whenever a starter may go down.
Right. And when you've got 40 new scholarship players, and you're still hearing the head coach say, hey, we feel much better about the competitive depth of the team. That's a very positive sign. I don't know. You know how coaches, and you heard a lot of it throughout Big 12 media days, like, hey, well, last year it's not going to win us football games this year. Like if you had a good season a year ago. No, I was talking to Chris Kleiman, right? And he said, this year's team, we haven't done anything, right? That was last year's team that won the Big 12 championship. And I think that's the approach you have to take. But Venables, just knowing all those stats of where they barely came up short from a year ago and just being able to rattle them off over and over, the 1-point losses, all these types of things that, I don't know, his obsession with the details that had them falling short a year ago. I don't know. It makes me feel better about their attention to detail going into this season. I know that sounds stupid, but as he just rattled them off over and over again, I don't know, it just made me feel that there's just an obsession with the details and what it's going to take to improve as a program. And it made me feel better in a weird way. I don't know why.
Well, I think it's interesting. And a lot of times stuff like whenever a coach is doing a press conference or talking to the media, a lot of times he's talking to his own players, right? And I think that you can do both things. You can demand excellence, but at the same time, you can look back on something and say, hey, it wasn't good. We put ourselves in a bunch of bad situations. We own all of that. But, this is just the difference between winning and losing. look how close we were. And I don't think it's anything to suggest that last year they did everything right and just didn't get the breaks. I think it's a little bit of a confidence thing for his own team, because going 6-7 at Oklahoma is a little bit different than going 6-7 almost anywhere else, to where your fans, like, it sticks out like a sore thumb, right? And you don't want your players dwelling on that too much and feeling like they're not capable. So I think a lot of it may just be, talking to his team a little bit, that we're way better than we were a year ago, and look how close we were a year ago to making that season look, not that they would have won the conference or anything, but it would have looked a lot better than just a 6-7 season. So I think that's some of it, maybe.
Yeah. No, I think that's a solid observation. I will say, as far as a confidence and demeanor standpoint, I can tell you Brent Venables doesn't walk around Big 12 Media Day like he's a guy that went 6-7 a year ago. Still a very confident and charismatic guy, as you can imagine, Ted. He was very comfortable in the setting.
Well, that's good. It's sometimes you can almost smell the fear going in there, right, with people, and it's good if someone is comfortable being there. It tells you a lot about their mentality, and I mean, it doesn't tell you everything, but if someone's comfortable in a setting like that, whenever they're going to get grilled and almost every question is, my God, last year was just horrible. What happens if that happens again this year, and to go down there and not be dreading those types of questions, I think is good.
Yeah. And that's really what stood out to me about Dillon Gabriel. He just seemed so comfortable, man. Looked great. Suit was fantastic. Had the custom like Louis Vuitton, Nike collaborations on. I don't know what they were, but they were sweet. But he seems so much more comfortable at this time as compared to a year ago, right? Especially, the expectations when it comes to playing quarterback at OU, right? It is well documented by this point, but I think him finally going through it, having that season under his belt, even though it didn't go as well as he wanted it to go, I think he just kind of understands what's what, and he just feels way more comfortable as the leader of the football team, right? And as we were interviewing him, he just was he's always chill, right? But he was just so confident and sure of himself. And I don't know, he just kind of seems like a different guy this year as compared to a year ago.
Yeah. Last year, looking back on it, there's a lot thrown on Dillon Gabriel. You have a head coaching change. You've got a new offense. You've got all kinds of different players coming from all kinds of different schools, trying to learn a system that everyone thought you already knew, which isn't necessarily the case. I mean, he dabbled in some of the same schemes, but having to show up somewhere and be the leader without like gaining that organically, it just doesn't necessarily work, right? Whenever it feels like you're just kind of, I don't know, forced into a position, and just listening to him, it feels way more organic that he's the leader of the football team now.
Yeah. And I asked him kind of about his wide receiver core and a little bit of the lack of respect that they're getting headed into the season. And he's very confident that group's going to show up in a big way. Very confident. So now he would know better than us, Ted. I still think you and I are kind of at the, hey, we want to see it before we're going to really buy in on that wide receiver core, especially who knows who's going to emerge as the guy, or even if a guy emerges in that way. But yeah, he he seemed pretty dang confident that they were going to be just fine at wide receiver. It made me feel better about it, but I'm kind of like, okay, he's the quarterback. He's got to say these things. He's got to say he's got all the faith in the world in these guys. Mentioned Petaway, right? Which stood out to me because we haven't seen that guy at all, right? As a true freshman. So I don't know, man. It made me wonder that maybe we're a little low on this wide receiver group, but I'm going to maintain my position of, hey, you're gonna have to show me something before I buy into that group. But DG, he was adamant that he felt really good about not only the talent level but the depth, like the number of guys that they're gonna have contributing. So thought that was interesting.
Well, you know, in hindsight, whenever you look back at last season, I think, I don't know if everyone would agree, but for me, and I think you, the wide receivers left a lot of meat on the bone last year. Drops, not being able to win one-on-ones. I mean, there was a lot there. But they did lose their position coach right as training camp started, right?
Yeah.
Not to mention being in a first year of an offense, still trying to find that rhythm. I mean, last year there was so much happening, and at the time I probably didn't factor in what that was going to mean to that group enough, and that's not to make excuses for them, but I feel like they've got a talented group. I feel like they have a really good coach. I feel like there's some stability right now. I mean, all of the ingredients are there for them to have a much better season than they did last year. Now, guys have to go out there and win and make plays. And, there's also the rest of the offense. The offensive line has to be really good. The running game, I think, even though we led the Big 12 last year, I think we can be a lot better running the football, especially in some critical areas. If all of that happens, the receivers should come up with the rest of that group and should have a good year. We'll see, though.
Yeah. We'll see. I hope you and I reach a point during the season where we feel as good about the wide receiver room as Dillon Gabriel does right now.
Okay.
That's what I'm hoping.
That's good. I hope that as well.
Now, I was bummed. I didn't get to interview Laulu. I didn't even really get to talk to him because he was doing interviews. We were doing like 8 straight hours of radio, and we didn't really have breaks. It was like interview after interview after interview lined up. So I didn't get a chance to go chat with them about the weight gain and how the summer was going. But I did take a couple good long hard looks at the young man. Not gonna lie. Maybe at points of time, too long of looks. But I will not apologize for the way that I am. That he looks like he's a cheeseburger away from 300, and he is.
Big dude.
But doesn't look fat, just looks dense, man. And I kept coming back to this. Everything Brent Venables does, from our experience, I would say, like, he doesn't do anything by accident, right? There's a purpose behind what he does, right? And I can't get it out of my head that Laulu was there. You know what I mean? Out of all of the defensive linemen, you've got the entire football team you can bring. And he was one of the 4 guys there. So you combine that with how good he looks carrying that amount of weight, it looks very natural on him. And the fact that he was there, that Venables said, no, you're going to be one of the 4 guys that comes and speaks for your team. I don't know, dude. It makes me have really high expectations for him this season. And I don't know if that's fair or not, but he was there. I'm expecting him to be a key piece of that defense. And he'll be 300 pounds easy by the time we kick this thing off.
Yeah. Quick follow-up on that. for weight gain, it's hard in the summer. You're lifting and everything, which
It's all the running, man. It's hard.
big
It's
part
hard to
of it.
really add when you're running that much.
You sweat so much, and then training camp, which is different now. They have a way more downtime. So I was just wondering, like, when does the weight gain really start to? Once you get in season, is it easier to start putting on then, or
it has to be in? It's not an enjoyable experience, but you have to treat it as a job. And I'm not sure I've ever told this story, but when Lane Johnson made the move to offensive line eventually, right? And I was a guy that it was hard for me to keep the weight on. It just was. Like, I had to be very intentional with the times I ate and how much I ate to stay at 295-ish, right? Or get over 300. And Lane and we would wake up at 3 a.m., chug shakes, and go back to bed. Like, you have to take it seriously. Like, you just do. And it's not fun. It's not enjoyable, but you're just hoping that taking it that seriously will pay off. Right. So for Laulu during the summer, it's going to suck, man. But when you're done working out, like, you got to eat, you got to go into those workouts with the proper amount of fuel in your body so that you're burning that, right? You got to be eating right. You got to be eating often. It sucks. It's not fun. Some people will be like, oh, you're complaining about gaining weight. Boo hoo. I'm telling you, you're just like, can we please stop eating grilled chicken for the love of God, please? But yeah, you have to treat it as it becomes part of the routine, right? Like, hey, dude, stuff your face and add the weight. Now you got to do it intelligently. Don't go to McDonald's at midnight a couple of times a week like Lemmy and Lane did every once in a while.
well,
that's when the one on Lindsay started serving breakfast then. Oh, so good.
You guys kept him in business, huh? Well, it sounds
for
like he's doing a lot, right? I mean, there's a bunch of guys that have put on, what's he put on, like 15, 18 pounds or so since.
And he looks good.
Sometime in the spring. So, yeah. And what was he, right around 295?
Yeah. I think 293 or so.
Yeah.
So he'll be 300 by the time camp starts. But
and supposedly he's one of the stronger dudes on the team too. And he's got those long arms, 6'6". I'm optimistic about it. I'm anxious to see how he does.
Yeah. Anything else that you heard? Drake Stoops said the wide receiver room is loaded, very similar to what Dillon Gabriel was saying. So clearly the guys in that building believe in themselves, which is, who cares what we think? That's really all that matters.
That's right.
But anything you heard from Stutsman that stood out? Seems like he's much more comfortable within the defense, and he dyed his hair blonde because of course he did. Guy's a wild
I thought it was already blonde.
I don't know. That whatever's going on top of the head there, that's not natural. There's something. The color has been altered in some form or fashion.
Oh,
I'm convinced.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I Venables' comments about him, I totally on point with everything that I think. I think he's kind of the guy now. He's matured. He understands the defense way more than he did a year ago. I have no worries about him entering the season. Now, I'm curious to see how the Mike Backer position works out, and that's a responsibility that he's going to have to take some ownership in. But what was it? Was he saying that Lewis Carter hit 350 on bench 6 times as a true freshman that weighs like 215 pounds, maybe not even? That's impressive.
Yeah. I mean, we knew that guy was explosive just from what the coaching staff had told us about his recruitment. They're like, hey, this guy's like freaky explosive. But yeah, to hear those numbers, that's moving weight.
Yes.
Now, I want to know the power clean numbers. Forget the bench numbers. If we're talking linebacker, I want to know what that power clean's looking like, which my guess is it's impressive. But
I can't imagine it's not.
Yeah, but the just speaking of that other inside backer spot, a lot of Connor Neer love, right? And you, when he committed, you were one of the few people that were like, no, this guy's going to be a factor on this defense. And just from hearing Venables talk about it, it certainly sounds like this is a guy that's going to be playing some snaps.
Well, when you talk about competitive depth, that's one of the guys that you think about. You know, I think that both Kanik and Kobe McKenzie, and there's a bunch of guys in that linebacker room that they have a much higher ceiling than Connor Neer does. But he can go in there, you know exactly what you're going to get, and he can play winning football for you. That's the competitive depth right there. It's kind of a stopgap in case one of those guys or both of those guys can't take that thing and run with it. You know, he gives you a guy that's played a lot of football, smart, plays good fundamental football. You know, if Stutsman were to go down or something like that, he's the only other guy there that has any real experience playing competitive football at this level. And I know it wasn't Power 5 Division I, but no one else has even played hardly a snap. So it's good.
Yeah. One other thing, OU related about Big 12 Media Day, Joe Castiglione was there. And, you know, some people were surprised that he was there. And I was surprised that they were surprised that he was there. And I talked to Joe about it, and I love what he had to say. It was basically, hey, I get to spend more time with the coaches and the players, right? And continue to develop those bonds, which is, you know, kind of the fun part of being an athletic director, right? And then he just said he felt it was really, really important to be there. That's the last one. Last Big 12 Media Day for the program. He just said he felt like it was really important for him to be there, and not only to show Venables and those players support, but to, you know, talk to these people that he's worked with for so many years. And I thought it was a great example of leadership on his behalf. And I'll say there are two schools that will be departing next season. He was the only athletic director from those schools there. So just, I thought it's one of the reasons why he's one of the best to do what he does. I mean, yeah. I thought it was classy as all hell.
Yeah. Well, I wish he would have went over there and slapped around the deputy commissioner of the Big 12 a little bit.
What was that?
So stupid. That guy's an idiot.
Did he used to work at K-State or something like that?
I
feel like I saw that on Twitter. Who knows?
I don't know, but there was a lot of dumb things in that little 2 or 3 minute rant that he had.
Yeah. He doesn't talk into microphones for a living for a reason, I assume. I assume your Mark saw that and was like, really, dude? Really? I mean, come on. What are we doing?
This is pretty bad.
Okay, a little recruiting talk. Jayden Jackson, 4-star defensive lineman, a 6'2", 300-pounder from IMG Academy, has committed to Oklahoma over Ohio State, Texas, Miami, and Florida. And from everything that I've read, this is a guy that almost didn't even take a visit to OU, and now he's the latest commit in this recruiting class. Another impressive get for Todd Bates and Brent Venables.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. And you know, again, one of the things is a defensive lineman with offers from Ohio State, Texas, Miami, Florida. We have not won many defensive battles against schools of those caliber, especially Ohio State and Florida, and like Miami. I throw them in there because of their new push with the NIL stuff. Like, that's the type of teams that you want to go in and win against. So I think that's big time. I like the kid a lot. Know he's a 4-star, you know, and some people even have him as a 3-star. I think he's like overall a composite 3-star, but he doesn't look or play like a 3-star to me. He's incredibly strong, compact, and I think overall really good get.
Yeah. The one thing I like, you turn it on, you go, That guy doesn't look very fun to block.
No.
I like that. I like when I turn on the highlights and go, that doesn't look very enjoyable to block that guy. And the hair coming out of the back of the helmet. The Polynesian DT pipeline I am all about it. I love the trend we're seeing here. And let's be real, it doesn't hurt that you're grabbing a guy from IMG for a lot of reasons, right? We know the amount of talent that comes through that program year in and year out. And then, of course, you got to wonder what it means for OU's chances of landing David Stone.
Yeah.
I got to imagine that landing Jayden Jackson does not hurt your chances of landing David Stone, right? One of his teammates. So that continues to look positive, right? It seems like OU's in good shape there with David Stone. Now, you won't know till signing day, right? That's how all this stuff works. You won't know with any of these guys that are committed in the 2024 class until they sign. But there's obviously a natural connection to make there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, not to take anything away from Jayden Jackson. I mean, we absolutely love to have him as a defensive lineman, but that was one of the other reasons that everyone was so excited is because, he's teammates with David Stone, another guy that we're in on. And, if that helps, or if that is like some foreshadowing as to what may be coming, that's great. Now, I don't know anything about these two guys. Everything that I've heard, though, is that, they're teammates, definitely, but they get along great, friends. So, because not all teammates get along great. So,
True.
That was one of the things that I asked, but it sounds like they've got a really good relationship. And if that's the case, and, Oklahoma is, at least in some people's eyes, leading on David Stone, you would think that is a good sign for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, let's get to call your shot. We asked you guys the most important thing that happened for OU football over the weekend, and this one comes from Dan Booley, who says 4 defensive tackles being listed on the north side of 300 pounds on the updated roster. I can't remember the last time there were that many defensive linemen going at 300 plus. Ted, you mentioned it. The weight gain is very real right now. And in fact, George Stoya over there at Sooner Scoop did the hard work on this. And he went and looked at what the guys were listed at and what their updated weights are. And Laulu's up 15 pounds to 292. Reggie Grimes is up 7 pounds to 274. Trace Ford is up 6 pounds to 257. Stripling's up 16 pounds to 250. Lacey's up 8, still only 280. It's light. Halton is up 16. He's getting there, 287.
I like the way he plays.
I like the way he plays too. He's been too light. If he can continue to add, he's a guy that can help you. Kelly's up 7. He's over 300 pounds at 302. Coe's up 6. Now a stout 314. Let's go, Isaiah Coe.
Yeah.
And then Sears is up 5 to 287. Thanks to George Stoya for doing the hard work there. But yeah, that's a good trend, right? The days of having super light defensive linemen are over, and it brings a smile to my face. Now, those guys still have to be in great shape. You got to get ready to play against teams that are going to go tempo. We all know how this thing works, but bigger humans, Ted. That's my motto. Give me the big humans. I like it. Yeah.
Yep. And going to continue to get bigger and bigger. There's a lot of guys on this roster that are, some of the young guys like Adebare, is going to continue to put on weight. Mason Thomas, he's going to be a guy that continues to put on weight. So all good things. Like we're getting bigger, we're getting stronger across that defensive line. Like I think, like where we are right now in the front 7, we don't have any first round draft picks on our defensive line right now, but you want to talk about competitive depth. When you look at all the different options we have at edge and what we've got on the interior now, I think we're in a far superior position than we were a year ago.
Feels that way to me. Right. And it's kind of how Venables was making it sound at Big 12 Media Day, that he was feeling much better about what the front seven's looking like. And that man, he typically shoots you straight with that type of stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm expecting them to be a lot better at the line of scrimmage. Now, we'll see. That's why they play the games. All right, birthday shout-outs. Happy first birthday to Jensen Galvin.
Happy 10th birthday to Ellie Kate Ray.
Happy 25th birthday to Drew Markwell.
Happy 51st birthday to Shane Turley.
And happy birthday to Alina Hickman. All right, let's talk about some of our other takeaways from Big 12 Media Day. But first, Love's Travel Stops is now offering a nationwide 10-cent per gallon discount on gas and auto diesel. Just download the Love's Connect app and scan your barcode at the prompt on screen and watch that price drop 10 cents per gallon. Across the country, the Love's Connect app unlocks exclusive deals and can help any traveler plan their route or meal on the highway. So before you hit the road, be sure to download the Love's Connect app to save 10 cents per gallon and experience the country's best highway hospitality at Love's Travel Stops. Love's also has you covered if you forget your phone charger or headphones with their expanded mobile to-go zone. And of course, don't forget to grab yourself some of that delicious Java Amore.
Opolis Clothing is the exclusive home for all of our Oklahoma Breakdown merchandise and is the best place to get your OU and OKC Thunder gear as well. If you want to live your life in buttery soft comfort, go to opolisclothing.com. That's OPOLIS clothing.com. Use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off your entire order. It's opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off.
And hey, you hungry out there? Of course you are. Then head to the garage for hand-smashed patties, butter toasted buns, and ice-cold beer. We're going to the garage for dinner tonight, Ted. How about that? Yeah, it's going to be delicious. The food is fantastic, and it is the perfect spot to watch any big game. Visit eatatthegarage.com to find a location near you and order online from the garage in your neighborhood. All right, Big 12 Media Day takeaways for all of the other people I talked to. So got to talk to all 14 head coaches, bunch of the players. I think we talked to 9 athletic directors. So it was a lot of fun. A lot of interviews, but it was a lot of fun. And one thing I want to point out, when you walk in to AT&T Stadium, the elevator you have to take to get down to the field, right? Ted, you want to take a guess which teams were put at the very far end?
I'm guessing Oklahoma and Texas were out of sight and out of mind, or trying to be out of sight and out of mind.
Yes, Texas was at the very end on day 1 and OU all the way down at the end on day 2. Even though they put them all the way down there, still had by far the largest crowds around them when they did the breakout interview sessions. But I thought it was really funny. I enjoyed it. Like I'm a fan of that type of petty from the Big 12 conference at this point in time. Like it really did make me giggle because we saw Texas all the way down there and it wasn't in alphabetical order or anything. And we saw them all the way down there on day 1. And my co-host on Big 12 radio, Ari Timken, was like, if they put OU down there tomorrow, I was like, oh, they're going to. And they absolutely did. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, it's probably as much for, like there's definitely pettiness, but I'm guessing they don't want everyone to congregate. Like if they're going to get the biggest crowds, like there's going to be people down at the end like, hey, hello, come see us. If you don't have to walk past their spot at all. But no, that's just how it's going to go. I just don't want it to spill over onto the field. All right.
Correct. I had a chat with the head of officiating, just throwing some of the conspiracy theories out there that some OU fans or some Texas fans may have. I was like, how do you handle that? Like, what do you think? That, like, man, We don't have time to think about that. We got to make the call that we see. I'm like, okay. So I planted that seed. Don't do that. Don't do that. Maybe call a hold against OU this year. Just one. That's all we want.
All right.
But
Yes.
And this may be strange. And I am not a body language expert. And I know that certain people just don't like talking in public. Like, I get that, right? I completely understand that that's not something that a lot of people are comfortable doing. My number one takeaway from Big 12 Media Day was Quinn Ewers was the most uncomfortable guy that we talked to. Very nervous. Was having trouble getting through sentences, was like clearing his throat, was playing with his arm hair, like fidget. I was like, what is going on with this guy? Wow. And I had heard that he's a shy guy, right? I've heard that before. So that's not, I wasn't shocked, but I just compared him to every other quarterback we talked to. And he was the outlier by a wide margin. And man, I just find it difficult that the guy that was that nervous to talk to us is going to go into Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it stood out to all of us that were interviewing. We're like, man, he was a little uncomfortable, but there was the nervousness that he displayed talking to three nobodies. I don't know, it made me nervous for him going and playing in that type of environment against that type of football team. I know it may sound ridiculous, but it just stood out so much, man. It was like my number one takeaway from the 2 days.
That's wild. There's a difference between not wanting to do it and like being nervous and afraid to do it and like uncomfortable doing it. That's wild because it doesn't line up with like what the public portrayal of him is like,
no.
right? With the colored mullet and all that stuff. Like,
mullet's gone.
I thought he was, well, I'm saying like,
no,
as
I know
he was coming out, I thought he was like Baker Mayfield type of guy, you know?
Yeah.
And it's such a contrast to that I don't know what to make of it.
I've really never had, as a player and now as a media member, like I've never really had an interaction with the starting quarterback that felt like that.
Wow.
It was interesting. And hey, maybe the field is where like all that stuff goes away for him. Yeah. Right. And that could be very possible, but it was I don't know how to say it. It's just kind of weird. It's just like, wow, he is not comfortable in this setting.
So I'm guessing since he was that uncomfortable, he didn't really give you anything of any substance to go off of, I'm guessing.
Well, he gave us some stuff, but we even asked him about the quarterback room, right? And Arch Manning coming in and what's that like? He's like, oh, we're all friends. It's fine. It's like, what? Like there was no mention of like, no, but it's my job. Like I'm the guy. There's nothing like that. I don't know. It was so non-quarterback, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
But hey, if maybe he goes down there and lights up the Crimson Tide, but I would not bet any money on it after that interaction. It was strange, man. It really was. But especially like you compare it was the first time I've ever talked to John Rice Plumlee from UCF. The dude, he basically started running the interview. He was so confident. I mean, like that's where it was just you compare that to what we got from Ewers. It was just, I don't know, it was night and day, man. It was strange.
Yeah. That kid's supposed to be a stud, right?
Hey,
like both sports, two-sport athlete.
He's an ultra confident dude.
Yeah.
And something I'm sure UCF fans were really excited to hear. Said he's going to do a better job protecting himself. He went through like how many games he played banged up or wasn't able to go in. He was like, yeah, he basically said, I got to stop running like a dummy. So he's going to be smarter with his decision-making when he's running the football. And that's and it wasn't during the interview, it was off headset, but I had a very similar conversation with Jalon Daniels. Now, it was hard to work through the distraction. He was wearing a giant diamond chain with an Apple Watch screen as the pendant with his highlights running on it, which it was hard to talk to the guy because you're like just staring at it the entire time. You're like, what is that? It was very cool. But yeah, that was the most important thing I heard from him, is that he's really working on protecting himself. Right. And even though Jason Bean played really good when he came in for him a year ago, he realizes how important he is to his team and how he needs to be smarter when it comes to the decisions he makes when he's running the ball. So I heard that from Plumlee and from Daniels. It was interesting. But Jalon Daniels, that dude he was dressed to impress. That's for damn sure.
I can't get past that. I remember seeing it, and where does that conversation start? Is it something that he envisioned? Did someone approach him and say, "Hey, you should do
his
this"?
dad. His dad sent it to him, and he was like, but it had some other thing playing on it. And then the guy is from, I think, a jewelry store out in LA, out from where he's from. And he was like, here, they put your highlights on. He was like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take that. That's sweet. And to his credit, it turned out very good.
That's interesting. I don't know. I can't.
You seem like you may hate it. Just the look on your face.
I could never, if that was like the most prized thing in the world, I just could not walk into a place playing my own highlights as it's draped around my neck. That seems like the douchiest thing in the world to do.
So I had a very similar reaction. I was like, really? But then he's very likable, man. Yeah. Very, very likable. He doesn't come off as a douche. Just like you hear all the answers and all this. He's got kind of a higher pitched voice too. Like you just don't expect it coming out of him. And it just, I don't know. Somehow he made it work. I'm not going to lie. Because
some people could pull it off. I'm just trying to picture myself and it's just, I don't know, but he's got a lot of highlights though. So maybe that helps.
Yeah.
How long do you have to watch it before it starts to recycle?
No, it went off during our interview. I was like, hey man, you got to tap your screen, get it going again. But talked to Sonny Dykes. That was actually the first guy we talked to at Big 12 Media Day. And one thing, he's like the chillest coach ever. My goodness. But he said, he just came out and said he thinks their wide receiver group is going to be better than it was a year ago. And that's a group that had a couple draft picks, including a first rounder in Quentin Johnston. And Sonny Dykes, last time I checked, he knows a thing or two about offensive football. So went ahead and wrote that one down, Ted.
Okay. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be wrong. He could absolutely be right, but that just seems like a wild thing that there's no reason to say that.
He said it twice.
Okay.
He said it, and then I did after we were done with the interview, I said, I heard that correctly. You said your wide receiver group's going to be better. He's like, yeah. No hesitation.
Well, maybe they got better depth. Maybe, I don't know.
Competitive depth.
They had a dude last year, and I will be open to the fact that across the board, maybe they're a little bit more skilled, maybe they're more balanced, but I will not buy that they've got a guy capable of the individual plays of Quentin Johnston.
All he said was that they were going to be better at wide receiver as a whole, as a collective unit. So
good.
That caught my attention. Matt Campbell he's extremely likable. I mean, the guy's just got a presence in person. He just does. But this was interesting. He said he thinks they have the best secondary he's had since he's been at Iowa State. So you think about what we have come to expect from that group in the front seven, right? The physicality that they play with at the line of scrimmage, that their backers play with, and how important that secondary is, not only in coverage, right? Of course, but how they spin some things in the back end and how some of the unique run fits they've got. That seems like a pretty significant statement, and it made me want to buy stock. I don't know if I'm buying stock in Iowa State as a team, but it made me think that defense is going to be one or two in the conference again.
I would pick them to be one in the conference, and I've kind of taken Iowa State as the team that I think has a chance to maybe improve on their position the most of where people have them picked. I think that they're going to have the best defense in the conference because that's held up for like the last, I don't know, however many years in a row. And I know they've lost some guys, but they keep losing guys and they keep replacing them with other really solid players. It won't take much for them to be, competent enough on offense to win more of those tight games. They had the best defense in the conference last year and the worst offense. And we were the flip of that, by the way. But I think that they can at least improve some offensively, and that could end up, meaning several wins for them. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Will Howard is enormous. I mean, you just compared it, and Tyler Shuck's a big guy too.
He's a legit 6'6", right?
Oh, not only is he 6'6", he was looking like Ben freaking Roethlisberger. I mean, the dude is huge.
Is he like Blake Bell?
Yes. No, he is a big. You compared him to like Ewers, and Ewers has lost Ewers is slight
like
right
205 or something.
Yeah, he's slight right now. They'll probably add, I bet you they add like 10 more pounds on him before the season rolls around. But Will Howard looked massive. And I told him again, hey man, you said, have you thought about tight end? You thought about it. And he laughed because I had to do a one-on-one interview during the season, and I told him about that. And so he thought that was funny that I revisited that. But he's come a long way with his confidence.
Yeah, I bet.
A long way. And just hearing him talk about, going through the ups and downs, kind of coming out of the other side and leading that team to a Big 12 championship, it was impressive to hear him speak. And I am, if there's any Will Howard stock out there that is left, I may purchase some. Just, dude, he is huge. I mean, it's just, he was so much bigger than every other quarterback there. It was.
What's he listed at weight wise?
He's got it. Like, if he is short of 250, I feel like they're lying. I'm not sure what he's listed at, but that is a big, large QB. He's listed at 6'5", 242.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, man, with an offensive line that's returning every starter, that's a tough physical group. Buddy, get ready for Colin Klein 2.0, quarterback power, over and over and over, play action off of it. When you got a big, durable guy like that, they've got some meathead they're going to put in the backfield with him at fullback. I'm sure of it. You're going to get some old school smash mouth football, I bet. With, we've seen the ability to spread it out.
Yeah, he mentioned one of the things that he's really been working on is pushing it down the field, right? His deep ball accuracy, outside the numbers, seam routes. So I think K-State's offense may be able to do a little bit of everything.
So I can just see it now. They're going to be running this stupid quarterback power, and he's going to be like running the power as he's like cocking to throw the RPO or hit the gap and go downhill.
Yeah,
going to be cheating.
But if we get to see the Sooners defend that play,
we're in the championship, baby.
That means we're in the championship game. So sign me up to see that in person. Neil Brown, who, by the way, I think is going to come on the podcast again, either this week or next week, trying to get him on before they start camp. That man is pissed off. He's pissed off. He's annoyed. His football team got picked dead last in the media poll, and I would say the best way to say it is he respectfully disagrees with that and did not hide it. And I won't lie, man. And he knew what he was doing. He came right after me with that 162 returning starts statistic for their offensive line. He targeted me, he buttered me up. He's like, dude, we're going to be good on the O-line. Everyone thinks we're going to suck. Our offensive line's going to be good. We're going to have a good football team. Now, they've got their NIL operation going now. They didn't lose nearly as many key guys like they had over the last couple of years. Now, their schedule is really tough. But he kind of convinced me that they're going to be a solid football team. This isn't exactly going out on a limb, but I will be shocked if West Virginia finishes dead last in the Big 12. Shocked.
Yeah.
Because he was borderline angry about it.
It's difficult to have a bad football team with a really good offensive line. It just really doesn't happen. What's more common is you're good in several areas, but you're bad on the offensive line. And because of that, you end up being a bad football team whenever really it's not indicative of your overall roster. So the flip of that is a good offensive line makes everyone else way better. And if he believes it, 162 returning starts for their offensive line, sometimes that's a good thing. Other times it means we don't have a way to replace the guys that sucked a year ago. So, returning starts isn't always the best gauge. Like for Oklahoma, as an example, I don't know. I wouldn't say we have a whole lot of returning starts coming back on our offensive line, but I have a feeling that unit's going to end up being really good. So, I don't know. I don't think they'll finish dead last either.
Right. So I feel pretty confident about that one. Now, Lance Leipold, love that guy. Guy's just a football coach, man. And seems like just from talking to him, seems like he feels really good about the offense. But he was very honest about their situation along the defensive line. No, he didn't come out and say it, but I could kind of read between the lines of what he was saying. I don't think they're going to be very good up front defensively. So that's probably not shocking for people to hear, but I think that group in particular is going to hold that football team back, just not having the production they need to have or the talent they need to have along the defensive front. So I don't see the Jayhawks making a Cinderella run to being in the mix for the Big 12 championship or anything like that. Not with the way that he kind of talked about his defense.
Yeah. The way to beat them is going to be keep away.
Yeah.
Just keep Jalon Daniels on the sideline, pound that team, pound their front seven with the running game, and make it a long, brutal day.
Yeah. So a couple other observations I want to run through quickly. Joey McGuire said Steve Linton, who is a Syracuse transfer, said he thinks he could lead the league in sacks. Went ahead and wrote that one down, even though that the Sooners don't play the Red Raiders. Thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, well, hang on a second. Joey McGuire also said that they have the best quarterback room, not just in the Big 12, but in the entire country.
I would respectfully disagree with that.
I would laughingly disagree with that.
But Tyler Shuck, when he was healthy last year, pretty good, and we saw it firsthand. He's healthy, a pretty good player. But yeah,
their quarterback room isn't even better than Kansas's.
I agree with that.
Which, how in the hell did Leipold convince Jason Bean to not leave?
He's a wizard. Have you seen him?
That guy could start at a ton of places across the country.
I completely agree. I don't know. A couple other things. Kalani Sitake. You talk about a first round draft pick for the all bar fight team. That dude is built like a tank, bro. My God. And to hear
Where did he
him,
play?
he played fullback.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Fullback at BYU.
Okay. Yeah.
And to hear him talk about how some people are doubting their ability to transition into the Big 12, and he kind of felt like it was those people challenging the physicality of that football team. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. It was and he's super soft spoken. It was just like, is he gonna kill us? He may kill us. No, he was awesome. But it was the first time I got to meet him and talk to him in that fashion. And whew, dude has a presence about him. That's for damn sure.
Wow. I like that. That's whew. Yeah, I would find the nearest exit, I think, if a bar fight broke out and El Sataki's hanging around.
You want that guy on your side for sure. I was so nice to him after. I was like, oh, thanks so much for taking the time. I was like, please remember this, please, just in case. Oh, he was he was a tank. Now, one thing that was interesting about Houston, right? We're all wondering, hey, how are these new teams going to fare coming in this first year? Their leadership, right? You talk about Dana Holgerson, talk to him, and then we also talked to their athletic director, Chris Pesman, who was an awesome dude. They're very realistic about the fact that, it's going to take them some time to build the depth that they need to have. Now, they've been recruiting to the Big 12 move for quite some time. I think Dana told me that 75 of their 85 scholarship guys were recruited to play in the Big 12, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, they were the most, I don't know if realistic's the right word, but I think they were just the most honest of the new schools, where they're like, hey, man, it's gonna take a little bit, right? We're gonna learn a lot in this first year, and we'll see. Hopefully we can win some football games. It was really interesting to hear them speak so honestly about it.
Yeah. That's what a lot of people have been saying. And I fully expect that. And I expect it. I think that between, the four new schools coming in, I think they're clearly in the worst position starting off. But I do think that it's probably going to be a growing pain and like going through some of that stuff for a lot of these schools. But it gets back to the depth thing, right? Just you're going up against big schools with a lot of money that have been at the Power Five for a long time. Because, and people are going to try and say the same thing about Oklahoma to the SEC. It's just a different world where, your football programs in the Big 12 have been bringing in, $35+ million a year. And from the AAC and, these conferences where you're talking about like even single digit millions for their TV deal. Like that is a huge amount of ground to try and make up. And, it'll take them a little bit, but I think they'll get there. And you and I both agree that the Big 12 conference is going to be really, really competitive.
Yeah. Now, I straight up asked Houston's athletic director about what he thought about some people saying Dana Holgerson's on the hot seat this season. He said he's not. And he's his boss. So it would, I mean, I straight up asked the guy and he was like, yeah, that's stupid. He's not. So take that for what it's worth. And then last observation, and I know you're going to love this. It didn't dawn on me until I saw him in person, like in a suit, dapped him up, hugged him. Jamoy Hodge is built exactly like Brian Asamoah.
Plays a lot like him too.
That it all just clicked when I saw him in person, right? We had seen him, I'd seen him down on the field level, right, as a player, but just seeing him in person and like the way that it was the way that he walked in a weird, I know that sounds so weird, but it instantly reminded me of Asamoah. And I'll tell you this, Jamoy Hodge is rather motivated that he was not on the preseason All Big 12 team.
Should be.
And because I put him on mine, and he was like, bro, I'm gonna go prove you right. So I am very interested in the type of season he is going to have. But yeah, Hodge, Asamoah, that's my player comp. There you go.
I feel bad for quarterbacks out there if he's on even more of a warpath this year.
Buckle the chin strap, gentlemen. Buckle up.
That's awesome.
All right. Anything else that you heard from the other schools at Big 12 Media Day that kind of stood out? I kind of hogged that entire thing, but
no, I
did
don't think
15
so.
hours of radio from there, so I had a
I
lot of observations.
I think all that's really good. You know, I remain and am growing more bullish on Kansas State as the season gets near.
Yeah. I'll tell you, man, Chris Kleiman's cool as hell. And that guy was walking around there. I told him I started calling him Peacock. We've got a good relationship, right? He comes on the radio show that I do for Sirius quite often. And I was like, dang, Peacock just walking around with the chest puffed out, showing the feathers off. Champion, huh? And he was just like, I'm just acting like myself. I was giving him a bunch of shit, but you could tell he felt good about his football team. So he was like, we don't have a Deuce Vaughn. He's like, but we've got some guys in that backfield and the skill positions we feel really good about. So I don't know. I have a bunch of confidence in him.
Yeah.
He's done a great job of blending like that old school mentality, right? Of accountability, discipline, physicality, and then playing enough of the new school, like butter you up, love on you at the proper times. Like he blends it well. And it's a hard blend. And I think he's doing a really good job. And I got a ton of confidence in him because I don't know, the results, man. The
results are there. It's there.
And some people, it's clear, don't know what he did at North Dakota State. Like they treat Chris Kleiman like this is some underdog story. The dude won 5 national titles in a row at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, he
had it rolling.
Yeah. So
the perfect fit. They made players. The perfect hire for Kansas State.
Between the way that he was carrying himself and me realizing that Will Howard's the biggest human being alive, I was like, damn, Kansas State. Yeah, I feel good about our selection that they're going to play in the Big 12 championship game.
And it's a school that's easy to root for too.
Yeah. It's my dad's alma mater.
Really? It's my grandma's alma mater.
Look at us. We'll be cheering for the Wildcats to make it the Big 12 title, right? That'd be OU Kansas State, the Big 12 championship game in OU's last Big 12 season. That'd be a lot of fun. Sign me up. I know that. Never mind. I'm just not even going to bring it up.
Come on, dude. I know where you're going with that.
Nope. We're moving on.
20-year reunion.
You said it, not me. All right, let's finish up with our winners and losers of the weekend. But first,
Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School represents a tradition of educational excellence in Oklahoma City. Grounded in a faith-based education, students prepare to meet their potential with an individualized academic path that strives for success. Bishop McGuinness offers a college prep curriculum that includes 22 AP courses, participation in OSSAA athletics, where they've won over 100 state championships, and numerous clubs and organizations for students to join and grow. If you want to provide the best possible educational and spiritual development for your children, contact Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School or visit bmchs.org. Financial aid is available.
And attention business owners, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica compares coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. Purchasing insurance is only one way to protect your business. Insurica's goal is to help you avoid a loss in the first place. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and control your total cost of risk. I'm an Insurica client, and you should be too if your business wants to be best in class. Connect with Insurica at insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com. As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the weekend?
I had to go with the Spaniard, Alcaraz, knocking off Novak Djokovic in the finals, Wimbledon. Djokovic was going, to be only the third male to win 5 straight Wimbledon titles. Not so fast. Alcaraz knocked him off. Young dude on the come up, was 1 seed, and it looked like early on he was a bit shell shocked by
that first set.
Being 6-1. Looked like Djokovic was going to roll, but from that point on, he found it, and you could tell he had more snap. He had Djokovic on defense the entire time. Was a really good match. Went all the way. How long was the total time there? It felt like forever.
It had to be. So I ate breakfast. We were watching it as we were eating breakfast. We went out on the boat. I fell off a wake surfboard a bunch of times, got up some, but fell off a bunch of times, was able to come back, eat lunch, did like a Pilates and yoga routine in front of the TV, and it still wasn't over. It was insane. It lasted almost 5 hours. It was crazy.
Highly competitive. Came down to that last game there. It was really impressive. What can you say? Djokovic is still playing really well. Feels like he's been doing it forever now. And see a young kid come in and knock him off. That's what you want, though, to keep the sport progressing.
Yeah, he is. I mean, the quickness,
good serve,
the speed, some of the drop shots. I was like,
yeah,
come on, young fella. And remember, what is he, 20 years old? I was like, come on, young fella. You can't be making the old man run to the net like that. That's rude. That's disrespectful.
I felt like every time I looked up, Djokovic was getting up off the grass, because he was diving for balls and slipping, trying to chase things down, and he had him running all over the place. It was really impressive. Yeah. Fun to watch too. Crowd was great. I mean, Djokovic got all pissed off and slammed a racket and got booed. It was awesome.
Clearly Alcaraz is going to be an absolute star if he can stay healthy throughout his career. I mean, the fact that he won that U.S. Open a year ago as a teenager, technically, yeah. Right? So you're winning Wimbledon at 20. You're beating who I believe is the best to ever do it. And the sky's the limit for that dude. I mean, it absolutely is. But Did you watch the speeches after the match?
No. As soon as it was over and they had their little hug at the net, I was done.
I was absolutely dialed into it. Djokovic is Djokovic. I'm starting to blend him and the basketball player.
Yeah.
Yeah. Djokovic. His speech after the match was so damn good. I mean, it had everything. He showered Alcaraz with praise, a little self-deprecating, some really good jokes that landed, teared up at one point. I mean, you talk about as good of a second place speech you're ever going to hear. He absolutely crushed it. And as I was watching it with my wife's uncle, and we both were like, why does everyone not like this guy? Like, this is fantastic. I don't know. It was really good, dude.
Is he not liked? I've always liked him. He kind of does have a demeanor to where he looks like
he's Serbian.
Be a jerk. Yeah.
That's kind of just how they look,
Right.
But just hearing him and his presence on the mic, and clearly the guy is, I mean, he's been there, right? He's been on the biggest stages in the sport, right? He is who he is. But I mean, he was working the crowd. It was a fantastic speech.
It was good. And I could tell that he was, whenever they went to the net afterwards, he was very congratulatory and smiling, and there was no I lost it. It was all you won it.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case.
Yeah. No, he he could not have been more complimentary to Alcaraz in his speech afterwards. And Alcaraz's speech was great too. I mean, he's great. That guy is going to be an absolute start. Now, maybe you don't change anything, but maybe we could, trim the neck up a little bit for the Wimbledon final. Maybe get the beard looking a little more lined up, or maybe all he focuses on is on tennis, and that's why he is who he is. So maybe, hey, don't worry about the appearance at all. It was a little unkempt, just a little. He is 20 though.
Let me ask you, if you started off, how long is the entire Wimbledon tournament?
2 weeks.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's a long time.
If you started off day one, totally freshly shaved, everything was, you showed up day one looking perfect, and you're there for the tournament and you don't get a haircut, you don't shave, you don't do anything the entire time you're there, what would you look like at the end of 2 weeks?
My hair would look fine, right? Because I would plan it out, right? I would plan out the haircut. I would have the haircut before I got there,
Right.
The beard would look great. You know that. Like
it would. Because I think that's
it doesn't take a long time to line it up, dude, around the neck area. Like it just doesn't.
It's like a hockey playoff beard. You don't touch
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd have an intense, like there'd be a lot going on for sure.
Yeah.
You think he's that superstitious at 20?
I don't know.
Elite athletes are usually weirdos like that. So yeah,
I would say at 20, it's just more likely that he doesn't care or didn't think about it or is too lazy.
Well,
or the amount of time that he had to, like, his downtime was spent playing Fortnite and not touching up on the grooming.
Well, now that he is the number one player in the world, right, which he was coming into the tournament and just won Wimbledon, I don't know if he has a publicist,
his people,
his manager, his people, or maybe be like, hey, Carlos, let's just we're trying to get all these sponsors. Let's try to just clean it up a little bit,
Yeah. It is one of those things too, though, and some people can master this. Look bad often enough to where whenever you do get all nice and cleaned up, it's like, whoa, look at this guy. He's looking sharp. Maybe he's doing some of that, but I think that moment would maybe be at the Wimbledon final whenever you want to.
That's what I'm saying.
Pop like that.
That's what I'm saying. All right, who is that was an awesome match, though. One of the best tennis matches I've watched in a really long time. And did you watch any of the women's? Not to go down the rabbit hole, but did you see, what was it? Vondrousova, something like that. Unseeded, wins the whole thing. That was crazy. I watched quite a bit of that too.
That's crazy. I did not see any of that, but they were talking about it. That's
Ons Jabeur just can't get it done in the final, man.
Yeah. I don't even know what the equivalent to that is. Like,
ooh, you know what you need to do? Drive to Survive, Formula One?
Yeah.
On Netflix, there's a tennis version called Breakpoint that my wife and I started watching. Really good.
Have you started watching the quarterback thing?
I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard good things.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got plenty of stuff I need to get to.
Absolutely. All right. Who do you have as your loser of the weekend?
Man, I got to tell you, it's Georgia. It's piling up.
Yep.
So we've continued to hear the narrative about all of the driving issues that they've had. Everyone obviously knows about the tragedy there after the national championship celebration. Well, now Victoria Bowles, who was a survivor of one of the car crashes, she was in the actual car, the car that wrecked. She's suing the University of Georgia, and she's suing the Jalen Carter, the player that was allegedly driving the other SUV that they were racing. I don't know she's saying that there's a lot of discrepancies and that the University of Georgia is lying, saying that I guess they said that the other girl that was driving should not have been driving, but I guess in her suit, she's alleging that there's a bunch of text messages and communications with the athletic department saying that she had the vehicle until the next day. And I don't know. It's just not to get into, I don't know the legality and all that situation. It's just a more bad look, right?
Yeah.
And more stuff that they have to fight off. And it's been a lot over the last 6-7 months or so that they've had to deal with. And, you know, it doesn't appear to be hurting them on the recruiting trail right now, but if these things keep popping up at some point, it's either going to start to hurt them in recruiting or it's going to become a distraction to the football team in some way, shape, or form.
Right. That's clearly, you know, college football players at other schools make stupid choices as well. Right. But you're the back-to-back national champs. You are in the spotlight. You are under the magnifying glass. Right. And as these things happen, man, yeah, that reputation starts to build a little bit. And now, as long as they continue to put guys into the NFL and win a bunch of football games, I mean, it may sound bad. I'm not sure the other stuff really matters that much in the eyes of some recruits and their parents, but yeah, it's just, you're Kirby Smart. There's already enough to deal with as a college football coach with how all of it works now. The fact that you're having to fight against this and to deal with the legal ramifications of it, it's got to be a huge pain in the ass, man.
Yeah. Not good. You know, the whole situation is bad enough to begin with, but
right.
You know, just talking about like what it means for their football program. Maybe it means nothing if they don't have any other issues and, you know, they continue to go out there, play really good football. Like this doesn't turn into something, but all like this has moved a really big magnifying glass, which, you know, you win 2 national championships, there's already going to be a big magnifying glass starting to show up, but you have a couple of little cracks in the facade and some things showing up and people start talking and the newspapers have a reason to start digging around. And it doesn't take long for everyone to become, you just carry that burden around with you of what all's happening. And, you know, maybe it doesn't mean anything, but maybe it takes away from your focus. Maybe it takes away from what you've always done is just go out and win football games. Now you're giving depositions and what did you know? And like, what are you allowing? And it digging into your text messages and your communications. It's just becomes something that I know that they don't want to deal with right now. So I don't know. I'm not picking Georgia as a national championship this year, and it doesn't have anything to do with this, but at some point, you got to wonder, is this the fuse that's been lit to kind of bring it all down?
Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first,
John Vance Auto Group has been serving Oklahomans for 40 years, family owned and operated. They've got 9 full service dealerships in Woodward, Miami, and Guthrie. No matter what your vehicle needs are, John Vance Auto Group has you covered. They carry domestic brands such as Ford, Lincoln, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, and Wagoneer. John Vance Auto Group's goal is to give unequaled service and to exceed customers' expectations in every way, which is why they have their lifetime loyalty program. And here's how it works. You buy a new or used car from them, then all you have to do is get all of the manufacturer recommended maintenance done at the Vance dealership. And if something goes wrong with the components of your engine, transmission, drive axle, or transfer unit, they will cover the repair costs. It's a great deal. You can browse their entire inventory or find the John Vance dealership near you at vanceautogroup.com.
And First Fidelity Bank is a full-service financial institution based in Oklahoma with tailored solutions for all your personal and business needs. Checking accounts, saving accounts, home loans, and much more. They do it all. Whether it's online banking from your computer or mobile banking from your phone, everything is stress-free with FFB. Making mobile deposits, paying bills online, and moving money to different accounts could not be easier. Ladies and gentlemen, make your life easier and go bank with First Fidelity Bank. Visit ffb.com for more information. All right, for my winner of the weekend, thought about going with Sabrina Ionescu. WNBA All-Star Weekend this weekend. She won the three-point contest, set an all-time WNBA or NBA record in the three-point contest with 37 points. Happened in the final round. Ted, she hit 25 of 27 threes, and she hit 20 in a row. It was insane.
That's crazy. Wow. 20 in a row. That's impressive. 37 points. Fine. Do it in the final round too, which is really cool. That's awesome.
No, it was crazy to watch. That was she put on an absolute show. But my winner of the weekend, Josh Heupel and the Tennessee Volunteers. Little slap on the wrist for all the transgressions that Jeremy Pruitt did there as his time as he was the head coach. And remember, when Heupel took the job, the Pruitt stuff, like that had all just gone down. The school essentially had outed itself. And, you know, Heupel really didn't know what that punishment was going to look like when it got delivered. And it's here. The NCAA Infractions Committee came down, $8 million fine, some scholarship losses, which are not insignificant, but they're able to kind of smooth it over several years. Got a reduction in visits, limits on recruiting contacts. They got to vacate wins, but no bowl ban. So no postseason ban, which is a huge win for Josh Heupel and a huge win for that program, especially coming off the season that they had a year ago. So nothing in the punishment that will really significantly affect the current or future players in that program, which you and I have talked about. That's how we feel it should be. But this feels like a big win for Heupel and for that program, especially since there were 200 individual infractions in the report. I don't even know what to say. But this thing is no longer hanging over them like it was. And I'm sure Hype is very excited to just get to move on.
Yeah. I read some of the breakdown, and I guess Jeremy Pruitt and his wife, Casey, were themselves making cash payments to players' families. That's wild, man.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But hey, and Pruitt got a 6-year show cause. And I believe I read this correctly. If he gets hired by a school, like, he's automatically suspended for the first year. So I don't think we're going to see him in college coaching anytime soon. But you look at what Tennessee's done with their collective. I got a feeling they're going to be able to manipulate some things to where, you know, those scholarship reductions, they'll be able to have guys that they may be walk-ons, but they won't be paying for school, if I had to guess. So it'll be interesting to see how they navigate that, right? And that's not against the rules by any means now. But the other thought I had is, man, Mike Boynton and Oklahoma State basketball, they just have to be so mad.
Oh my God.
They did like one thing wrong and got banned from the NCAA tournament. And Tennessee had 200 infractions. And they're like, no, you guys can play your bowl game. It's fine. It's
crazy,
insane.
Man. It's crazy. How, I mean, I guess maybe Tennessee went along with this, and, you know, they outed themselves, and then I guess they worked at the NCAA, but I don't know. The precedent in my mind has been set that it doesn't matter what you did and how guilty you are, you do not go along with the NCAA at all. You just delay.
Now, in the report, the NCAA was like, oh, Tennessee cooperated so well. That's why they're not getting hammered. That's exactly what Oklahoma State did, and they got the NCAA tournament, man. It has to be so infuriating.
It has to be.
It's got to be so infuriating. All right. For my loser of the week, I went back and forth, but I thought about going with Robert McIntyre, right? If you were watching, there was a lot of sports this weekend, by the way, but the Scottish Open, right? We've got the Open next week. Scottish Open always leads into it, but Robert McIntyre is a guy that is from Scotland, and he looked like he was going to win the Scottish Open, right? Hit just an incredible 3-wood out of the rough into a massive win on 18 to set himself up for a birdie, and he takes a one-shot lead into the clubhouse. But Rory McIlroy, man, just too good. Birdie 17 to tie for the lead, and then on 18 hits just an absolutely ridiculous cut 2-iron into just like a monsoon wind. And then it was 8 to 10 feet, the putt. It was not an easy putt, and makes it so he goes birdie on 17, birdie on 18 to win the tournament. I really felt for Robert McIntyre. It's like they cut to him, and it was like he just had his soul ripped out of his body. I felt so bad.
What are you going to do? I mean, when you're standing there watching and you've got the lead, I guess they would have been tied at that point, right? But a guy's got a 2-iron into a win. You've got to feel pretty, I mean, if of all the clubs to pick in someone's bag that you want them hitting at that, it's probably the 2-iron, right?
Yeah. He just nailed it. It was unbelievable.
Did you see him hit the persimmon driver early in the week?
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
But I ultimately ended up I thought about going with Tony Romo because he was the defending champ there at the American Century Championship and didn't seem to play overly well for him. But I'm just going with every athlete that was there that's not Steph Curry. Man stole the show. Dude, he absolutely stole the show. He's the best shooter ever. He's the best shooter in the history of basketball. And the guy's awesome at golf, too. Just eagled 18 to win the tournament. So he is your American Century championship champion. I think
had a hole in one too, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like the hole in one in the celebration, like him just running all the way down there. It just absolutely. It is a field of famous people and a bunch of hyper competitive people because a bunch of them are former athletes, and he absolutely stole the show. And he's still playing basketball. Like, he's an annoyingly good athlete.
Yeah. I feel like there's quite a bit of carryover from, I'm not saying it's like the same movement as shooting a basketball, but clearly he is proficient in replicating the same exact movement over and over, right?
Yeah.
So, and the fact that he's a basketball player, but he's not 6'10" with and having to go golf with that type of frame, it actually, I guess, sets up real well for him, as clearly he's good at it.
He's annoyingly good, and he holds his follow through way too long. I mean, but hey, it's working, man. It's working. I know when he hit the hole in one, I was watching it live. It was awesome. I mean, it was awesome, but there was part of me that was really, the guy's good enough at one thing, right? He's good enough at one thing, but hey,
the 7 times a year that I hit a really good shot, just like I want to, I mean, I make the perfect contact. The ball does exactly what I envisioned it was going to. I hold that follow through as well. I sit there and stare at it 7 times a year.
7 times a year. Fair enough. Congrats to Steph Curry. You're awesome at golf too. Good for you. On that note, episode 336 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop on Wednesday. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 3 to 6 on 94.7 The Ref. You can hear me on Sirius XM Big 12 Radio, channel 375. Hope you all have an awesome start to your week. And until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.